Hello there, I hope you are having a really good week. Welcome to episode 13 of How to Renovate. This week I'll be talking about party wall agreements which apply here in the UK. Okay, so I know it's not the most exciting topic, but if you're about to renovate, it's quite important to know where you stand when it comes to your neighbours and your neighbouring properties. So bear with me while I run through what a party wall agreement is and why you might need one. In our 5-pillar process, the info in this episode falls under pillar 1, planning. So everything I teach about renovations falls under my 5-pillar process, and you can get some more info on the process at the end of this episode. Okay, so let's get into it. Simply put, in the UK, a party wall agreement is technically known as a party wall award. It's a legal document, it's a legal agreement that's signed by your neighbours that states that if any damage is caused to your neighbour's property by the building work that you are carrying out, that you are then responsible to put it right at your expense. And all your party wall agreements must be in place before you start your building work. So that's really important because you could really find yourself in hot water if you start building and you don't have your party wall agreements in place with your neighbours. Okay, so it's typically in relation to the construction and the renovation work that affects any walls, structures or boundaries that you share with your immediate neighbours. And the process involves several steps. I'll go over a quick overview in a minute. I'll just carry on kind of talking about what it actually is for a second. But it's governed by the Party Wall Act of 1996. And it's a piece of legislation in the UK that provides a framework for preventing and resolving disputes between neighbours. So the primary purpose of the party wall agreement is to regulate and manage the potential impact your building work or your construction work could have on a wall or property that belongs to your neighbour or that you share with your neighbour even. So, it's also there to just avoid and resolve disputes between property owners. So it's just there to protect everybody, really. Okay, so let's talk about when you will need a party wall award in place. If you live in an attached property, like a terrace, a semi-detached, a flat, a maisonette, you will almost always need a party wall award because the award generally relates to a shared wall or structure. So if you live in an attached property, like a terrace or a semi-detached home or a maisonette, you will almost always need a party wall award, as the award relates to any building work that can affect any walls, structures or boundaries that you share with your immediate neighbours. But the award also applies if your building is within 3 metres of your neighbour's boundary. You will also need a party wall award because this usually will relate to if you're digging for any foundations, if you're digging any trenches for any kind of new extension or new house or new building, you can disturb the earth, and on the off chance, you might actually disturb the foundations of your neighbour's property, which may be within 3 metres of where you are digging. So that's just there in the event that happens, and it's just there to protect your neighbour so that if you damage their property, that you will put it right at your expense. There are actually many types of party wall awards, and the one you will require will obviously depend on your circumstances, the type of work you're doing, and where your property is, and also where in relation it is to your neighbour's property. So you can research what kind of award you need, or you can get a party wall surveyor involved to help you out, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so we're on to the next point, and that is who arranges the awards. So it's not essential that you hire a professional to do your party wall awards for you. You can do them yourself. In fact, if you get on well with your neighbours, you may be able to just undertake the notifications yourself. But if you're unsure, it may be worth getting a professional involved to help with the awards. The professional that would usually take charge of this process is called a party wall surveyor, and your architect might be able to help you find one, or of course you can just look them up in your local area and see who might be able to help. And another way is maybe to get a recommendation from friends and family. Okay, so let's quickly go over the process. There's a few steps involved, and I've prepared a really quick 6-step overview for you. So let's get into it. Okay, step 1 is you serve notice to the building owner. This means that the party intending to carry out the construction, which means you, if you're doing the renovation, you must serve a formal written notice to the adjoining owners. The templates of these can be found online quite easily, so you can Google this and really find it quite easily if you're choosing to do this yourself. But you must serve a formal written notice to your adjoining owners, your neighbours, affected by your proposed work. The notice will then outline the details of your planned works, including the nature of the work and the anticipated start date. So I would say at this point is sometimes it's tricky to locate owners of property. You know, the property might be rented out, but you can find owners' details on the UK Land Registry website. If you look that up, you can search for the property address, and the registered owners will be registered on that website. You may have to pay a fee to get that information, but if you're struggling to find the owners of the property, that's how you can do it. Okay, step 2, you wait for the adjoining owner's response to your notice. So this means that once the adjoining owner, which means your neighbour, receives your notice saying that you want to do the work and when you want to start it, they have a few options that they can respond with. They can either consent, which means they're fine with it. They'll sign the notice and they'll hand it back to you and they'll say, "We're happy, please go ahead with your project." But they can also dissent or object. So they may do this, perhaps maybe if you haven't spoken about the works to them properly, or they have a concern or an objection to raise about the proposed works, they may object. Or they could do nothing. So this could be maybe the owners can't be found at that stage, or can't be located, or they don't live in the property. So if the adjoining owner does nothing, it is deemed that they have dissented. So you have to assume that they have objected. And in the case of an objection or a dissent or a neighbour doing nothing, it would be advisable to then get a party wall surveyor involved, because they are the professionals here and they will help you with the next steps of getting your neighbours on side, the right process and procedure, and also possibly helping you be able to find the neighbours if you can't locate them as well. So moving on to step number 3, that would then of course be the appointment of the surveyors. So if a dispute arises, like I just said, each party will typically appoint their own surveyor. You can agree to share a surveyor. This is quite often a way of moving the process along quickly and also possibly saving some money, because any party wall surveyor, they have to act impartially on behalf of all the parties. So this really can help the process along. For example, if your neighbour says, "I want to use this party wall surveyor," you could just say, "Well, then I will use them as well." And then you're giving them the choice, but then you're also saving yourself some time and money, hopefully. And once appointed, the surveyors will assess the proposed work, they'll prepare the party wall awards, and then depending on the number of neighbours and just number of disputes, they will help to resolve any disputes so that the award can be issued and the works can begin, which is obviously your ideal outcome. They'll also prepare a schedule of conditions. So The schedule of condition, that's just a detailed record of your neighbour's property. So someone will go in, they'll take photographs of the current condition, they'll take a record, they'll make notes. And so that's just a record of before you started the works. So in the event that your works did damage their property, they could then go in. If there was damage, they could compare that to the original schedule of condition. And then step number 4 is the party wall documents are prepared. So the surveyor then will proceed and he'll prepare the party wall awards, which are the legal documents outlining the rights and responsibilities of the building owner and the neighbours, the adjoining owners. And it will specify the conditions under which the building works can proceed. And it will also include any necessary protective measures and compensation for damages should they occur. And then finally, step number 5, your building works can begin. So once the party wall awards are in place, you are free to start your works and you can proceed with your construction according to the agreed conditions and which was set out in the award document. And if any damage does occur, you're all set up, everything's on record, and it should avoid any disputes with your neighbour. And then number 6 is the completion and the final inspection. After the construction work is completed, the surveyors may conduct a final inspection to ensure that the work has been carried out in compliance with the party wall conditions that were set out. So that's just kind of the final step. That may or may not happen, but if you want to just sign everything off, make sure your neighbours are happy, then you could request this step from your party wall surveyor. Okay, so although the party wall process is a bit tedious, it is designed to provide kind of a structured framework that protects you and your neighbours really. It protects you from, being blamed for damage that perhaps wasn't caused by you, and it also protects your neighbour from damage that perhaps was caused by your works. So it's there for both parties, and it's there to protect the interests of the adjoining owners and the owners of the building. So it just ensures kind of a smooth process and a legally compliant one when you're starting a building project. You can find more information on the Party Wall Act. There is a government link. So on the government website, I will link to this in the show notes, but it's gov.uk/Party Walls Building Works. And you can get lots more information there. You can find out which particular party wall you might need and get all the info on that link. So do go check it out if you need a party wall agreement. It's a great resource. Well, that's it, folks. That's it for this party wall episode. It's called a party wall, but it's not exactly a party, is it? So we've come to the end of the episode. It's a really important stage. You need to get it done, otherwise you can't start your project. So I hope it was helpful, and have a lovely rest of the week, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. For more information on my 5-pillar process for successful renovation, you can go directly to southplacestudio.com/pillars, where you'll find an introduction to the process and what each pillar covers.